Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Heartland Today. Before we dive into today's pulse-pounding episode, let's quickly revisit the heart-stopping events from the last story. Nathan's corporate empire was on the verge of collapse, buckling under the relentless counterattacks from LSE's media machine. The pressure sent him spiraling into paranoia, igniting a ruthless internal hunt to root out any traitors in his organization. Amid this chaos, a terrified analyst managed to secretly copy and leak the full transport manifest for Scott and Peter, a secret that would set the stage for the dramatic showdown ahead. The previous episode ended on a cliffhanger, as Ty's team obtained the intel, giving them the exact route and timing for a high-stakes ambush. If you're enjoying this season, take a second to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any chapter of this electrifying saga. Today, planning is over. The Heartland Resistance is moving into position for what may be their most dangerous and explosive mission yet. The Crow's Nest Pass carved a jagged scar through the Rockies, a lonely, wild stretch where the wind sang mournful, untamed songs. The asphalt ribbon clung precariously to the mountainside, a fragile tether of civilization in an otherwise unforgiving wilderness. One side rose into sheer granite cliffs, the other plunged a dizzying 1,000 feet into jagged rocks far below. It was the perfect stage for an ambush. Under a moonless sky, pelted by icy rain, the Heartland team became shadows in the night, moving with a silent, lethal rhythm honed through relentless preparation. High above, on a rocky outcropping that offered a perfect sniper perch, Ashley and Shane prepared their positions. Every movement was precise, almost a wordless conversation between two seasoned professionals. Shane activated a small communications jammer, its green light like a single defiant star in the storm. Ashley, lying prone with a high-powered tranquilizer rifle resting on a bipod, was no longer a rancher's daughter. She was a guardian angel, silent, deadly, and resolute. Below, on a treacherous hairpin turn, the rest of the team labored to set the trap. Caleb and Tim, unstoppable forces of brute strength, stretched a heavy logging chain across the narrow roadway, anchoring it with steel spikes driven deep into the asphalt. Ty kept watch, tranquilizer rifle at the ready, scanning the dark, rain-slicked pass. In his mind, strategy and rage intermingled, the fire of vengeance for Amy and Peter fueling his cold, tactical precision. With the chain in place, the jammer activated, and the snipers poised, the team melted into the shadows, becoming one with the storm-lashed landscape. Silence enveloped the pass, punctuated only by the relentless drumming of rain and the howl of the wind. A small, desperate army waited for approaching engines, for the battle that would define the night, for the chance to bring one of their own home. Minutes stretched painfully. The downpour eased, the storm's roar becoming a softer patter. Then it came. A low, unmistakable rumble. The approach of heavy engines on the mountain road. High above, Ashley's calm whisper cut through their earpieces. Visual confirmed: 2 escort SUVs, 2 armored transport vans, 2 rear escorts. They're a mile out, approaching the hairpin. Ty, crouched behind a moss-covered boulder, responded with measured authority. Jammer on now. A faint click confirmed the convoy was isolated, a blind, deaf snake, cut off from the rest of the world. Headlights pierced the rain-soaked darkness, and the lead SUV crept around the blind corner. Then, taut and undeniable across the road, the logging chain came into view. The trap had been seen. The convoy slowed to a halt, lead escorts, transport vans, all immobilized. Tension thickened, a silent standoff between hunters and hunted. Ashley's whisper broke the quiet. Clear shot on lead engine block. Taking it. A single dart, nearly invisible, struck the SUV. Smoke began curling from the engine. The vehicle sputtered and died. The ambush was live. Chaos erupted. Guards poured from vehicles, professional and trained, returning fire. But above, Ashley's tranquilizer rifle turned precision into invisible havoc, dropping guards silently and efficiently. Below, Ty, Tim, and Caleb navigated a different kind of chaos. Physical, brutal, and relentless. Trapped behind mossy boulders, they were pinned by expert return fire. Tim deployed a smoke grenade, shrouding the narrow road in dense, choking fog. Visibility vanished. Panic replaced training. The trio charged, emerging as hunters in a world of shifting gray shadows, their enemies disoriented and blind. Ty moved like a ghost, a silent force neutralizing anyone in his path. Tim and Caleb, a terrifying duo, became a whirlwind of retribution. Within moments, the guards were incapacitated, strewn across the asphalt like discarded toys. The road was clear. Victory, however small, was within their grasp. The path to the first armored transport van lay open, but victory was far from complete. Tim's crowbar dug into the seam of the reinforced steel doors, muscles coiled with the pure, unrestrained fury of a man who had lived too long in a world of captivity and control. With a final, guttural heave, the lock gave way. The doors swung open, revealing Scott Cardinal, bound, gaunt, his face pale and haunted from days of psychological torment. His eyes, wide and disbelieving, scanned the figures standing before him: Ty, Caleb, Tim, friends, family, and comrades, come to pull him from a nightmare. Ty was the first in, moving with the urgency of a commander who understood that hesitation could cost lives. A flick of his knife severed the zip ties, freeing Scott's wrists. "It's us!" Ty barked, his voice both comforting and commanding. "You're safe now." Scott's gaze lingered, struggling to reconcile the horror he had endured with the reality unfolding before him. Caleb stepped in, guiding Scott from the van to the wet asphalt, the reunion chaotic and hurried. There was no time for tears, no room for words of comfort. Survival demanded action. Ty's mind immediately pivoted to the next threat: the second transport van. Peter was still inside, unreachable, and the sound of a diesel engine roaring to life sent a jolt of alarm through the team. The van surged forward, headlights cutting through the smoke, skimming dangerously close to the cliff edge. For a terrifying moment, the team feared the vehicle would plunge into the void, but the driver wrestled control, steering it to relative safety. The sense of a partial victory mingled with raw frustration. Peter remained in enemy hands. Tim's frustration erupted in a visceral roar. He slammed the crowbar against the hood of the disabled escort vehicle, metal buckling under the force. A release of rage, yet utterly useless in changing the unfolding reality. Ty, ever the strategist, refocused, recognizing that any moment lost increased the threat of reinforcements from Nathan's fortress. "We move now." Ashley's voice crackled through the earpieces, urgent and precise. "Heavy response team inbound in less than 5 minutes." The team didn't waste another second. Heartbeats synced with adrenaline, they hauled Scott into the forest cover. Rain-soaked branches and roots tore at their clothing, but concealment was paramount. Each step carried them further into the dense shadow of towering pines, deeper into enemy territory, where only instinct, training, and raw determination could guide their path. Time became a distorted measure as the storm-soaked night pressed in from all sides. Sounds were amplified: sirens, shouts, barking dogs. The hunt for the Heartland resistance had begun in earnest. The team moved as a unit, seamless in coordination despite exhaustion and injury. Ty led, cutting a path through the undergrowth, eyes scanning, mind calculating every possible threat. Caleb and Tim flanked Scott, guardians of the rescued asset. Every rustle, every shadow was a potential danger, and every second could decide life or death. As they pressed deeper, Ty's mind flashed to Peter. The escape of the second van wasn't just a tactical failure. It was personal. Peter's safety was paramount, yet the team could not afford to risk exposure for a hasty rescue attempt. Strategy demanded patience and precision. A wrong move now could mean the loss of all three of them. Heartland resistance lived in the balance of timing, stealth, and courage. Above the forest, Ashley and Shane maintained overwatch. From their perch, they could see the faint outlines of movement beneath the dense canopy. The storm had shifted to a lighter drizzle, visibility improving just enough to allow for long-range surveillance. Each breath and motion calculated, each sniper dart ready. Their role was critical: prevent detection, neutralize threats silently, and provide the team below with the edge they needed to survive. The forest was alive with tension. Ty signaled a halt, crouched low, listening. Faint footsteps echoed on the muddy earth. Reinforcements, advancing toward their previous ambush site. The team's hearts raced, adrenaline spiking, yet their discipline remained intact. Each movement became a choreography of survival. Tim checked the crowbar in his hands. Caleb adjusted his stance, muscles coiled and ready. Scott, though frightened, trusted them implicitly, his life now inextricably bound to the team's precision and resolve. Then came the first sight of enemy patrols, silhouettes moving through the trees, rifles scanning, their approach methodical, professional, and terrifying. Ty whispered commands, and the team melted into the shadows, invisible yet omnipresent. Ashley and Shane's sniper rifles hummed softly, tranquilizer darts finding their marks before the patrol could detect the presence of the hidden team below. Each guard dropped silently, a testament to preparation and skill. Tim and Caleb moved with brutal efficiency, intercepting patrols that strayed too close. Their combination of raw strength and tactical acumen created chaos within the enemy's ranks. Ty remained the mind of the operation, calculating distances, timing, and angles, ensuring that every move minimized risk and maximized the chance of escape. The forest became both shield and weapon, an extension of the Heartland Resistance's determination and expertise. Hours seemed to compress into minutes as they navigated the treacherous terrain. The team pressed on, each step forward a victory in itself. Scott, still trembling from his ordeal, clung to the resolve and courage of his rescuers. Every fallen enemy, every avoided detection reinforced the fragile hope that they could reach relative safety. Each heart-pounding second became a testament to the meticulous planning and sheer willpower that had brought them this far. Finally, they reached a small clearing, an abandoned ranger outpost that offered temporary sanctuary. Wet, exhausted, and tense, the team paused. Ty surveyed the surrounding forest, ensuring no trails or tracks had betrayed their passage. Caleb and Tim checked their gear while Scott collapsed, relief washing over him even in brief moments. Survival demanded constant vigilance, yet this pause allowed a fleeting breath, a chance to regroup, assess, and plan the next move. From their vantage point above, Ashley and Shane continued overwatch, their eyes scanning the horizon for any approaching threats. The storm had softened to a gentle drizzle, the misty rain casting eerie shapes in the moonlight. Every shadow was a potential hazard, yet every movement was calculated, methodical. The Resistance's mission was far from complete. Peter remained in enemy hands, the second transport van a moving target somewhere in the mountains. Ty's mind, though momentarily at ease with Scott's rescue, was already plotting the next engagement, anticipating every variable, every risk. As the night wore on, the team took stock of their limited resources, weapons, and remaining time. The storm-slicked forest, the treacherous mountain roads, and the relentless pursuit of Nathan's forces ensured that the coming hours would test every ounce of courage, skill, and endurance they possessed. But for now, in the fragile sanctuary of the Ranger outpost, a temporary victory held. They had saved one brother. The fight for the other continued, looming large and perilous in the shadows of the Rocky Mountains. The tension, adrenaline, and raw emotion of the night had brought the Heartland Resistance closer together, forging bonds through shared danger and unrelenting commitment to their cause. Their mission was far from over, yet this small victory, Scott safe, alive, and reunited, served as a powerful reminder of what they were fighting for: family, loyalty, and the heart of a resistance that refused to yield, no matter the odds. The forest had temporarily shielded them, but Ty knew that safety was fleeting. The sound of the diesel engine still echoed in his mind, the second transport van carrying Peter disappearing into the stormy night like a ghost. Time was now their enemy as much as Nathan's forces. Every second counted, and hesitation could cost Peter his life. Ty gathered the team, eyes sharp, mind calculating. "We move. No delays," he ordered, urgency threading his tone. Scott, though still shaken, nodded. Survival demanded action over emotion. Emerging from the temporary sanctuary, the team plunged back into the storm-soaked wilderness. Rain-slicked branches lashed at their faces, roots threatened to trip, and the darkness was nearly absolute. But the Heartland resistance moved with purpose. Each footfall was deliberate, each glance and movement calculated. Ty led, Caleb and Tim flanking Scott, eyes scanning for threats. Above, Ashley and Shane maintained overwatch, the soft hum of their sniper rifles blending with the rhythmic patter of rain. Every shadow, every movement was analyzed. The van had chosen a route along a narrow ridge road, a treacherous, winding path high above the cliffs. Ty calculated the approximate location based on the last sighting, and Scott's limited information about the convoy's schedule. They had to intercept it before it reached the heavily fortified canyon exit, or Peter would be lost. The team moved silently, using the dense forest to mask their progress, a coordinated dance of survival honed through relentless training and shared experience. The roar of engines returned, distant but unmistakable. Ty signaled a halt. The team crouched, pressing low to the forest floor as headlights pierced the mist. Visibility was low, the storm reducing the world to muted grays and fleeting shadows. The van, armored and fast, edged around blind curves, unaware of the hunters tracking its every move. Ty whispered commands. Caleb and Tim adjusted positions, prepared to intercept any patrols attempting to flank them. Ashley and Shane's overwatch provided a crucial layer of protection, monitoring the ridge from above, ready to neutralize threats silently. Suddenly, a patrol vehicle emerged, sweeping the forest edges. Tim and Caleb moved like shadows, intercepting with precision. A brief, silent struggle, neutralized without gunfire, without alarm. The path was cleared. Ty's mind ran calculations, considering distance, speed, and terrain. Every detail mattered. The team needed to reach the van before reinforcements could react. Failure was not an option. The narrow road above was now in sight. Rain-slick asphalt gleamed under the van's headlights, the cliff edge a deadly boundary. Ty assessed the angle for an ambush. Timing, trajectory, and the limited space demanded meticulous planning. They could not stop the van by brute force alone. They had to manipulate terrain and utilize every advantage the stormy pass provided. The forest offered concealment, natural choke points, and a chance for controlled engagement. Ashley's voice crackled through earpieces. "I have eyes on the van, moving fast, but it's slowing slightly for the sharp curve ahead." Ty's heart pounded. This was the moment. Signals passed silently between team members, movements rehearsed but still thrilling in their unpredictability. Tim checked the crowbar, Caleb readied his makeshift anchor devices, and Ty confirmed tranquilizer rifles were loaded. Safety disengaged. The van approached the critical curve. Ty signaled, and the team moved with coordinated precision. Caleb and Tim executed a rapid deployment of steel cables and weighted chains, stretched taut across the road, anchored to trees and boulders. It was an improvised but deadly barrier. Ashley and Shane adjusted sniper positions, eyes tracking the van's trajectory, ready to strike with exacting precision, every heartbeat synchronized with the rhythm of the storm, the tension palpable. The van hit the curve and collided with the improvised roadblock, tires skidding, body shuddering under the sudden impact. Chaos erupted. Guards poured from the vehicle, professional and disciplined, weapons drawn, forming defensive positions. But Ty's team had anticipated this. Tranquilizer darts flew silently, neutralizing the first wave before they could react. Ashley's aim was flawless, every dart a silent messenger of incapacitation. Tim and Caleb surged forward, using the smoke and chaos to their advantage. The two were a storm of brute force and tactical aggression, overwhelming the remaining guards with a combination of precision strikes and raw physical power. Ty guided the operation, ensuring minimal risk to Scott and maintaining focus on the primary objective, Peter. Suddenly, the van lurched backward, attempting to escape. Ty's voice cut through the rain and chaos. "Stop it! Contain it!" Tim wedged a steel beam under the rear wheels, forcing the vehicle to halt. The team had the van immobilized, but the inside was inaccessible. Reinforced doors and heavy locks still protected Peter. Every second spent here increased the chance of reinforcements arriving from Nathan's fortress. Ty considered options rapidly. The dense forest, the storm, and the narrow road were their allies. He sent Caleb and Tim to flank the van, using branches and cover to approach the vehicle stealthily. Ashley adjusted her rifle, ready to neutralize any threat visible through the reinforced windows. Each movement was precise, calculated. The storm around them seemed almost to hold its breath, the tension thick enough to taste. Finally, Caleb signaled. A small opening was visible, enough to breach the reinforced door with a combination of leverage and brute force. Tim nodded, placing the crowbar with precision and force. The steel resisted, groaned, and finally gave way. A tense, brief moment, and the door swung open. Inside, Peter was there, bound, bruised, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and disbelief. The team's hearts surged. Another brother reclaimed. Ty moved in first, cutting Peter free with the practiced efficiency of a seasoned commander. "It's over," he whispered, though every sense remained alert. "You're safe." Peter's gaze locked onto familiar faces. Comrades, friends, a family forged in fire and survival. Relief washed over him, but the storm outside reminded them that victory was temporary. The team guided Peter into the forest cover. Rain-soaked and mud-covered, they pressed forward, the immediate threat neutralized but reinforcements still closing in. Sirens echoed through the valley, distant but growing. The Heartland resistance had achieved another rescue, but their path to safety was far from clear. Every step forward was measured, cautious, and essential. Ashley and Shane continued overwatch, eyes scanning for the faintest sign of enemy movement. Every patrol, every vehicle, every shadow was accounted for. Communication remained silent but constant, a thread weaving the team together across terrain and storm. Ty's mind orchestrated their movements, each decision a balance between aggression, caution, and tactical brilliance. The team moved deeper into the forest, the narrow pass behind them now a scene of chaos and quieted resistance. Guards incapacitated, vehicles immobilized, but reinforcements loomed. Rain slicked their path, but determination fueled every stride. Scott and Peter, now both rescued, relied entirely on the team's expertise to escape unscathed. The storm began to abate, mist curling around trees, moonlight breaking through clouds to cast spectral shadows on the forest floor. The team pressed on, each movement deliberate, silent, yet urgent. The path ahead remained perilous, but they carried with them a hard-won victory, the retrieval of two valuable allies, proof of the Heartland Resistance's skill, courage, and unbreakable resolve. Ty's mind remained focused. Nathan's forces would regroup, retaliate, and pursue relentlessly. But the team had proven that with careful planning, courage, and unity, they could outmaneuver even the most formidable adversary. Each member of the Heartland Resistance knew that the night's events had tested them to their limits, but also reinforced why they fought and what they were willing to risk to protect each other. And so, with Scott and Peter by their side, drenched and exhausted but alive, the Heartland Resistance continued their flight through the forest. Every step carried the weight of survival, vengeance, and hope. The battle for Heartland had escalated, becoming more personal, more dangerous, and more determined than ever. The night was far from over, and the war for their land and their people had only just begun. The forest seemed endless, shadows stretching in every direction, rain-soaked and heavy with the scent of pine and wet earth. Ty led the team with unyielding focus, each step measured, every sense alert. Scott and Peter walked between Caleb and Tim, their presence a constant reminder of why the Heartland Resistance fought so fiercely. Every rustle, every distant echo, demanded vigilance. The storm may have softened, but danger remained. Nathan's forces were relentless, and the mountains offered no easy refuge. Ty paused briefly, scanning the terrain. "We need to move fast," he whispered, eyes narrowing. "Reinforcements will be here soon. Keep quiet and stay close." The team obeyed instinctively, every motion silent, every breath controlled. They were a living unit, bound by trust, skill, and the shared urgency of survival. The forest, though treacherous, now became their ally. Fallen logs, thick underbrush, and jagged rocks provided concealment from the approaching search parties, allowing the team to navigate without detection. Above, Ashley and Shane continued their overwatch from a higher ridge. The storm had cleared enough to allow for greater visibility, and every shadow was scrutinized. The snipers' rifles remained steady, dart-loaded barrels ready to neutralize any threat. Their calm vigilance gave Ty and the others below the confidence to move forward. Every second was precious, every calculated risk a potential lifesaver. Suddenly, distant shouts echoed through the trees. Nathan's reinforcements had arrived, moving swiftly and methodically, scanners and flashlights sweeping the forest. The team froze, visibility was poor, and the soldiers' discipline made them formidable opponents. Ty signaled a halt, pressing Scott and Peter against the nearest tree trunks. Caleb and Tim melted into the shadows, preparing to intercept if detected. Every heartbeat felt amplified in the damp, heavy air. Ashley's voice came through earpieces, calm but urgent. 3 patrols, moving left to right. Avoid the clearing, keep low, and follow my markers. Ty nodded imperceptibly, eyes sharp, mind calculating. Using hand signals, he guided the team along a winding, less obvious path through the dense undergrowth. Each movement was deliberate, slow, and silent. The forest floor was treacherous, hidden roots, slick mud, and sudden drops. But the team moved like shadows, their training and experience blending seamlessly with instinct. The reinforcements passed just a few yards away, their flashlights cutting through the mist. The team remained perfectly still, their breath controlled, hearts hammering. One misstep would trigger gunfire, endangering everyone. A tense minute stretched like an eternity before the patrols moved beyond their immediate range. Ty exhaled quietly, signaling the team to continue. Each step brought them closer to temporary safety, yet the mountains still held countless dangers. The next challenge emerged, a narrow ravine spanned by a fallen log, slick with rain and moss. Ty assessed the crossing carefully. "One at a time," he ordered, voice low. "Caleb first. Tim, Scott, Peter, then me. Maintain balance and move fast." Caleb stepped onto the log with the grace of a seasoned climber, muscles taut, eyes locked on the opposite side. Tim followed, supporting Scott and Peter carefully, ensuring they did not slip into the churning ravine below. Finally, Ty crossed, the team now fully on the other side, a minor victory, but one that reminded them how fragile their escape truly was. The night air was thick with tension. Nathan's forces would soon realize both transport vans were compromised. Every patrol, every vehicle could be dispatched to intercept them at any moment. Ty's mind ran scenarios. Which roads would they take? Which ridges provided cover? Where could reinforcements cut them off? He calculated every angle, every possible threat. The team trusted his judgment implicitly, each member aware that one misstep could unravel everything they had fought for. As they pushed deeper into the forest, the rain turned lighter, almost a drizzle, yet the mud remained treacherous. Scott and Peter, exhausted and wet, struggled to keep pace, but the team's determination fueled their movements. Tim's focus never wavered. Caleb provided both physical support and protection. Ty scanned ahead constantly, every shadow potentially hiding a hidden enemy. High above, Ashley and Shane maintained overwatch. The forest below was a maze of shadows and mist, but their trained eyes could discern movement, and their rifles remained ready. A single dart could neutralize an approaching soldier before they had a chance to call for backup. Every breath, every blink was part of the dance of survival. Their vigilance allowed Ty's team to move with relative confidence. though danger lurked at every turn. Suddenly, the unmistakable sound of engines on a ridge above froze the team. Flashlights swept the tree line. Nathan's elite forces were closing in, vehicles maneuvering to intercept. Ty quickly assessed options. "Split into 2 groups," he commanded, voice urgent. "Scott and Peter, with Caleb and Tim, take the left trail. I'll lead Ashley and Shane on the right. Regroup at the Old Ranger lookout. 10 minutes at most." The team obeyed, moving like ghosts through the dense forest. Mud, rain, and fallen branches slowed their pace, but careful navigation allowed them to maintain stealth. Each sound, crack of a branch, rustle of leaves, was analyzed, anticipating pursuit. They moved with a blend of precision and instinct, a choreography born of desperation and skill. Tim and Caleb guided Scott and Peter through hidden paths, over roots, and around jagged rocks. Ty and the snipers took a separate trail, providing a rear guard and surveillance. Every movement was synchronized, every pause intentional. The enemy was fast, professional, and relentless. But the Heartland Resistance's training, preparation, and unyielding determination kept them one step ahead. At last, the 2 groups approached the Old Ranger lookout, a dilapidated structure perched high above the valley. It offered temporary sanctuary, elevated vantage points, and enough cover to rest briefly and strategize. Ty signaled regrouping. Scott and Peter arrived first, soaked and exhausted but alive. Ty and the snipers followed moments later, and the team took stock. Weapons were reloaded, wounds assessed, and a plan formed. The night's events weighed heavily, yet there was a palpable sense of achievement. 2 valuable assets, Scott and Peter, had been rescued, but the threat of Nathan's forces loomed. The team understood that this was only a temporary respite. Reinforcements could arrive at any moment. The mountains were unforgiving, the storm relentless, and their enemies unyielding. Yet, for the first time that night, the team allowed themselves a brief sense of relief, a minor victory in an otherwise brutal war. Ty looked out across the valley below, calculating next moves. "We hold here for 10 minutes, he whispered. "Then we move to the extraction point. Fast, silent, no mistakes." The team nodded, focused and resolute. Each member knew the cost of failure, the stakes of their mission, and the unbreakable bond that had carried them this far. From the high ridge, Ashley's voice came through earpieces. "All clear for now, but patrols are still moving. Be ready to relocate immediately if spotted." Every word was a reminder that victory was fleeting, but vigilance would keep them alive. The storm, the forest, and the mountains themselves had become allies and adversaries in equal measure. As the team rested briefly, rain continuing to drizzle around them, their thoughts were a mixture of exhaustion, triumph, and determination. They had accomplished a dangerous rescue, but the war for Heartland's freedom was far from over. The mountains had tested their strength, their skill, and their courage, and they had survived. Yet Ty knew the next phase would demand even more: speed, precision, and unyielding resolve. With the rescued allies by their side, the Heartland Resistance prepared to move again, each member aware of the dangers ahead. The night had been long, the mission brutal, but their unity, courage, and unshakable determination ensured they would continue to fight. The war for Heartland had escalated, growing more personal, more intense, and infinitely more dangerous. The Ranger lookout offered temporary cover, but the mountains beyond held countless challenges, and Nathan's forces were already mobilizing. The team understood the stakes. Every choice, every movement could tip the balance between life and death. Yet they pressed forward, fueled by loyalty, skill, and the unbreakable bond that defined the Heartland Resistance. The Ranger lookout offered a brief reprieve, but Ty knew it was only temporary. Nathan's forces were relentless, and the mountains provided few safe havens. The team had to move quickly to the extraction point, a hidden landing zone where a small unmarked helicopter awaited, ready to whisk them out of the enemy's territory. Every second counted. Mist curled around trees, and the storm-slicked forest floor threatened to betray their movements with a single misplaced step. Ty scanned the terrain, calculating angles, distances, and the timing required to reach safety. "Stay low, stay quiet," Ty whispered, voice barely audible over the soft patter of rain. "Move on my signal. No mistakes." Caleb and Tim flanked Scott and Peter, ensuring their rescued allies remained protected. Ashley and Shane stayed high, providing overwatch, eyes scanning every shadow for the faintest hint of pursuit. The night was alive with tension, a silent predator stalking from every direction, yet the team moved with coordinated precision, a lethal blend of stealth, speed, and experience. As they descended the steep ridge, faint noises echoed through the trees. The approach of enemy patrols, alerted to the previous ambush and likely seeking to intercept them before they could reach the extraction zone. Ty signaled a halt. The team pressed against trees and boulders, hearts pounding in synchronization with adrenaline and the storm's rhythm. Every rustle, every broken twig could mean detection. Ashley's voice came through their earpieces, calm yet urgent. "Patrols moving west to east. Avoid the clearing, stay hidden. 10 minutes and you'll be in range for extraction." Ty nodded, guiding the team along a winding path through dense underbrush, roots slick with rain, mud sucking at their boots. Scott and Peter followed closely, exhaustion and fear evident on their faces. Tim and Caleb moved silently, shielding them from potential threats. Every step was deliberate, every movement a matter of life or death. The helicopter was their only hope now. The extraction point was a narrow clearing atop a rocky ridge, exposed but offering just enough room for a skilled pilot to land and take off quickly. Ty scanned the distance, gauging the safest approach. Reinforcements could arrive any moment, and Nathan's elite soldiers were trained, methodical, and relentless. Yet the team had learned to trust their instincts and each other. They had survived the ambush, neutralized multiple threats, and rescued 2 of their own. Success now depended on precision and timing. Suddenly, headlights appeared on a ridge below, a reconnaissance vehicle scouting the forest for signs of movement. Ty signaled the team to drop low, pressing against the ground as shadows stretched and twisted in the dim light. Caleb and Tim took strategic positions, ready to intercept if the patrol approached too close. Ashley and Shane focused their rifles, tranquilizer darts primed for silent incapacitation. A single shot could neutralize the patrol before alarm was raised. The reconnaissance vehicle slowed, then moved past without noticing the team. A collective sigh of relief passed through the group, but there was no time to linger. Ty motioned forward, and the team resumed their trek, moving swiftly yet cautiously toward the extraction site. Every step brought them closer to freedom, yet the sense of imminent danger never left. At last, the clearing came into view. The helicopter was visible, rotor blades spinning low, ready for a quick landing. The team approached cautiously, ensuring no detection from surrounding ridges or hidden enemy patrols. Ty assessed the final stretch. Mud, rocks, and rain made the footing treacherous, yet the team moved as one, synchronized and determined. The helicopter touched down, kicking up mist and leaves in a swirling chaos of rotors and rain. Tim and Caleb helped Scott and Peter onto the skids, guiding them quickly into the cabin. Ty signaled Ashley and Shane, who descended from their overwatch perch with the agility and precision of trained operatives. Each member of the Heartland resistance made it aboard, the sense of urgency heightened by the knowledge that Nathan's reinforcements could appear at any moment. As the helicopter lifted off, the mountains stretching endlessly below them, Ty allowed a moment of relief. They were alive, their mission partially successful. Scott and Peter were safe, at least for now. Yet the war was far from over. Nathan's forces would regroup, track them, and retaliate. The mountains were unforgiving, the storm relentless, and the enemy relentless. Inside the helicopter, the team assessed their situation, wet, exhausted, and battered, yet alive. Scott and Peter were bruised, both physically and emotionally, but the team's presence gave them strength. Ty's mind raced ahead, already calculating the next steps. Extraction was only the beginning. They needed a safe house, medical aid, and intelligence on Nathan's next moves. The Heartland resistance had won this battle, but the war was far from over. Ashley spoke first, voice calm, but carrying the weight of urgency. "We got them, but we can't stay in one place for long. Nathan will mobilize everything he has to find us. We need to move fast once we land." Ty nodded. Every second counted. Every decision carried immense weight. Caleb and Tim remained alert, watching the perimeter through small windows, muscles tensed, ready for any sudden encounter. Scott and Peter, recovering from shock and trauma, remained silent, absorbing the reality of their escape. The helicopter descended toward a hidden airstrip, a small clearing concealed by surrounding trees and jagged rocks. Visibility was low, but the pilot was skilled, navigating the storm-wet terrain with precision. As the skids touched the ground, Ty's team moved swiftly, exiting into the dense forest surrounding the landing zone. The mission had been successful, but vigilance was paramount. Nathan's reach was long, and danger could emerge at any moment. Once in cover, Ty regrouped the team. "We did it. 2 assets rescued and we're alive. But this is only the start. Nathan will retaliate and we need to be ready." Caleb and Tim checked the perimeter, ensuring no pursuit had followed. Scott and Peter, finally able to breathe, exchanged brief words of gratitude and disbelief, their relief palpable yet tempered by the awareness that the fight was far from over. Above them, the storm clouds began to break, revealing patches of night sky. The mountains stretched into darkness, a silent witness to the chaos and heroism that had unfolded. The team paused for a brief moment, catching their breath, reflecting on the intensity of the mission. Hearts raced, muscles ached, and spirits burned with determination. They had achieved a critical victory, yet the price had been high, and Nathan's wrath loomed large. Ty's eyes scanned the horizon, mind already moving ahead. They had survived ambushes, storms, and impossible terrain. They had rescued their brothers, but the path ahead was uncertain and fraught with danger. Every member of the Heartland resistance understood this truth, and yet their resolve never wavered. They had fought, bled, and prevailed, not for glory, but for each other and for the heart of their land. As the helicopter lifted once more, carrying them toward temporary safety, the team looked out at the mountains disappearing into mist and darkness. The war for Heartland had escalated, becoming more personal, more intense, and infinitely more dangerous. Each victory carried a cost, each breath was precious, and every decision could tip the balance between life and death. And so, with Scott and Peter safe, yet knowing the fight was far from over, the Heartland resistance disappeared into the stormy night, shadows against the rugged peaks moving toward their next challenge, their next battle, their unyielding fight for freedom. The mountains were silent witnesses, but the echoes of their courage, determination, and unbreakable bonds would resonate far beyond the storm-lashed forests. The episode ends on a tense and bittersweet note. Victory claimed, yet the enemy still looms, and the fight for Heartland is far from finished. Every step forward will demand courage, skill, and the relentless pursuit of justice in a world where danger waits at every turn.